We are back. It's Joe Holka Show presented by Line Movement. Week 14 pre-kickoff. Guys, there's a lot going on this morning, so I appreciate you being here with us. Going to be an interesting slate overall. I think this has been a week that I don't know if I would go full Peter Overzet and say it's been like completely flipped on its head, but a lot of stuff happening, right? Obviously, yesterday we get the news that Gaskin is going to be out. Now we got DeAndre Washington coming in at 4K, probably going to touch the ball, 15 times or so. We'll get into that, guys. That kind of stuff definitely changes a lot in roster construction. We talk about it all the time. The beginning of the week, the middle of the week, it's about putting in the work, getting like kind of our feet set on like the situations. But the real stuff happens on Sunday morning, guys. That's why this is the big show. I'm glad that everyone is back with us again. How's everyone feeling so far about this slate, guys? It's an interesting one. If you started to build lineups, you'll realize that it's actually a little bit tighter on FanDuel than normal, which is interesting. We do have some news this morning as well. Jim Steele saying Brandon Cooks is out. We had a couple people here really early. Actually, what was kind of cool, guys, we make obviously the event pretty early in the morning. I wake up around 4:35 on Sundays. Did the event right away. Been working on the polls. Fingers crossed. We're going to try one in a couple minutes here. But my Noti gang was here early. And if you don't know what the Noti gang is, if you hit that notification bell, you'll know exactly when the event goes up. And when the event goes up, normally that's when the conversation starts. So if you're up even before these streams start, be a part of the Noti gang. Why not? So we got a couple people here very early. Jay Gardner was in here. John, Chicken Dinner Winner. That's a heck of a name, man. What's up, man? How's it going? Ben Hartley was in here. We had Harper helping us out, the Streamlabs support to try and get the polls working. So fingers crossed on that. Jay Garner again. John was in here. Dino, what's up, Dino? Said beautiful and sunny here in Tampa today. Should be a good day of football. That's an interesting game, Dino. I'm with you on that one. Mr. Mike's daddy, I wanted to shout this out on stream, man. He says, I want to let you know how much I appreciate the content. Hey, man, I appreciate you being here. I think people, like, they kind of like the vibe that we have going here, right? Because it's more of like a hangout. Like, I'm going to work through like the entire slate with you guys throughout the week. Obviously, on Sunday morning, I'll give you guys what I'm doing. But I think that people understand quickly the type of people out there that have skin in the game, but also are willing to say when they're wrong, or are willing to say that they don't have all the answers. Anyone that tells you they have all the answers, guys, probably not who you should listen to. I'll say that. John Spenceley, what's up, man? 25 was in the chat talking about Mike Evans and McLaurin. We'll get there, man. I think that the Tampa Bay situation is kind of interesting overall. McLaurin could end up going super low owned in this slate, which is kind of interesting to me. Joey Donnelly's in here. Giants Gaming. Make that coffee a good one, Joey says. Hey, we got it. I guess this is the first time I've tried it since I warmed him up. Let's see if it burns me here. Oh, man. That's like, I think that's how we know, like, if the slate is going to be a good slate. It's do I burn my mouth on the coffee or not? So far, so good. So far, so good, guys. It's going to be great. We'll go through this thing position by position like we normally do. We'll talk through some leverage option. Great slate overall for late swap as well, which we always talk about. So we'll go through that. We'll go through the data sheet, of course, some of my favorite stacks, a bunch of stuff like that. Per usual, guys, this is the big show. So if you want to help out, get this in front of more eyes, you guys actually can directly impact how many people we get in here. I'm dead serious. So if you toss a like on this video, it helps YouTube realize that this is worthy content. It puts it in front of more eyes, suggests it. I'm sure some of you guys in the chat right now, you found me through a suggested video watching something else on Sunday mornings, whatever it is. So you guys can directly impact that. So hopefully we can keep this thing. Hopefully we get it over 1K again today. I think that'd be really cool. Danny P's in here. He's a part of the Noti gang. What's up, Danny P? Armando's in here. Brady, Barkley, Richard Super. What's up, Richard Super? How's it going, man? Stan Card's in here, Bodyguard, a bunch of just conversation. You guys don't even care about me, man. You guys just want to get in here and talk to the community. I love that. Jay Garner, thanks for the time you put into this, man. Don't know how you do it and still do everything else. Hey, yeah, you and me both, brother. But we love it, man. We love this time of year. We love football. We love DFS. We love fantasy. Big fantasy week for everyone, too. So I'm going to try and hit on as many start sits and stuff like that as I can because I know a lot of people in the playoffs this week. So I'll do my best. Trying to win another 500 this week, says Paul. What's up, Paul? Yeah, man, there's been some nice hits in the community overall. Obviously, James McCool, who helps out at linemovement.com out with the data sheet and a bunch of stuff behind the scenes. He had a huge hit in Showdown. I think he turned like $300 into like 40K. Just wild. I'd take that today. Would you guys? Tyler's in here. What's up, Tyler Hollenbach? Joshua McClintock. Dino's in here. Loves the sound of the Joe Holka intro music on a Sunday morning. People love the intro music, man. People love it. Jay Garner's in here telling people to smash that like button. Thanks, man. Appreciate you. Tyler's in here. We got some mods in here, too. We are fully modded up these days. I love that. Justin Blair comes in here just firing. Chris Hinshaw just gives him a little timeout. If you fire like the same question over and over again, doesn't mean I'm going to answer it any quicker. That's for sure. Joe Super, get his donut ready first. Yeah. The donut thing is never going to die, is it, Richard? I'm jamming Zeke. PJ, interesting, my man. Guys, there's a lot to talk about here. So stream has been live for about 13 minutes. They tell me I have to do that before I start a poll. Should we give it a try? Fingers crossed. All right. First poll going up. Highest owned player. This is a sub-only vote. Week 14. I'm really hoping this works because these are so much fun when they do work. So in order to place your vote, you do have to be a subscriber to the channel, number one. Number two, you'll have to put exclamation point vote, space, and the number. So if you want to vote for Devante Adams as being the highest owned player in week 14, exclamation point vote, space, and the number. Let's see if it works. What's up, Noel? We got Noel fan in the chat. How we doing, my man? Polls are working. Oh, thank God. Brady, the first one to get it in. I love it, guys. We have a polls. You guys might not think, if you're here for the first time, you might not think it's that big of a deal. It's so much fun to get these polls working. It is. It gets you guys involved. It gets the chat moving. It gives you guys an idea of where I'm at, where you guys are at. For whatever reason, like earlier in the year, we were struggling with getting these to work. These bots, sometimes they don't work. And then randomly on Thursday night, just stopped working. Thank God we have them on a Sunday. That makes me really happy. So where are we at, fam? Highest owned player. Adams, Henry, Tyreek Hill, Kelsey, DeAndre Washington, the aforementioned DeAndre Washington. Where are we at, guys? Don't be shy. If you are a subscriber to the channel, this is like one of the things that you get to do. You get to be involved in these type of polls. We do a bunch of them on Sunday mornings to try and get a pulse, right? Before we dive into the position by position analysis, all that good stuff. I want to get a feel for where you guys are at, man. This is an interesting slate overall. Noel, we haven't chatted much this week, man, but I have an idea of some things you're on. Noel fan obviously playing some pretty big stakes. He plays a lot of very condensed target shares. Interesting. He correlates different than people that I know, even at the higher stakes. He's different by that, but also, like, you guys know me. I'm a volume chaser, right? I love these condensed offenses as well. So hopefully a big week for Nolan coming and everyone else in the chat. Devante Adams, Derrick Henry, pretty close to even right now. By the way, guys, 500 people in the chat right now. We have 177 likes already. You guys are too kind. Really appreciate you. We do have a couple people lingering over on Twitch and Periscope. Would love it if you guys would join us over on YouTube if you want to get involved in these polls. If you want to get involved in the conversation on Sunday mornings, this is where to be. This is where to be. All right, Derrick Henry. Looks like he has the current edge. I'm going to let this roll for a little bit longer, guys. We got 20 seconds here to get in your votes. I think I agree with you guys for the record. Very, very interesting. Should do a Zoom version so we can see everyone. That'd be cool, Joshua. That'd be cool. Joshua, have you been involved in the Patreon streams, the ones directly before lock? Because you can see everyone in that one. It'd be cool to actually have it like a Zoom call thing, though. Maybe I'll build an overlay for that. All right, poll. Looks like hang on. I gotta open this up so you guys can still see it. Devante Adams, Derrick Henry leading the way in terms of ownership here, guys. Very, very interesting. So I mentioned the Patreon before, and look at Jack Humphrey right now tweets out the starting soon thing. Love that, man. I just saw the tweet. Thank you so much for that. So let's do this before we get too deep into it, guys. I think one of the main things that I'm going to mention a couple of times here, and obviously a big part of our community, is what happens off of stream, right? So the Patreon. If you haven't joined the Patreon yet, would love it if you guys would consider it. It's $1 per month, 25 cents per week, but trying to give you guys as much value as possible, right? This isn't something that I'm doing for profit. It's to get this chat, this conversation going, fantasy football, DFS, sports betting, all of that stuff past just the streams, right? We do have an exclusive weekly DraftKings tournament in our community, which has been a lot of fun. What we've been doing is like a $30 Amazon gift card for the winner. I'm going to probably, now that it's getting up, I think we had over 160 people in this tournament last week. Last week we did this coming week as well. For every rating and review that I get on Apple Podcasts, I'm adding $1 to the prize pool. So last week we gave away, I think, $52 to the winner. So great value here. Obviously, you get access to NFL Red Zone, that stream room, so sweat the games with us, and exclusive 15 to 30-minute live stream directly before NFL kickoff. My final thoughts. That's not on YouTube. So there's a link in the description for this, guys. I would love for you guys to join the Patreon, just the community in general, past just these live streams, something that is really important to me. And I think we've had a lot of fun with it so far. So, guys, I think it's time to jump into quarterback. I agree with you guys on the ownership stuff here, but we're going to run one more poll before we get too deep into position by position. We got time. That's the good news, right? Obviously, the Line Movement YouTube show is directly after this at 11 a.m. Eastern time. Myself, Peter Overset, and Dieter will go through game by game. We do more of a position by position type of thing with the polls here. So a little bit of everything. There'll be a link in the description for that as well. So let's do this, guys. I'm going to complete this poll first. So fired up. These are working. Top quarterback, price considered for week 14. Again, sub-only votes, or if you're a subscriber of the channel, exclamation point, vote, space, and then the number. Who is the top quarterback on week 14? And then we're going to dive into the data sheet, and I'll give you guys an idea of kind of where I'm at quarterback right now, guys. It's an interesting slate overall. Some heavy hitters for sure. Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, Justin Herbert, or other. If you don't like any of those guys, maybe you don't like any of those guys, let me know in the chat, guys. Joe, have I lost my mind playing Mike Glennon? I don't know, man. I don't know if you've lost your mind. I think that the Jaguars guys are somewhat interesting. I do not have any Glennon currently. Joshua McClintock joining the Patreon today. What a guy, man. What a guy. We got Lauren in the chat. As a girl, have literally, hang on one sec. As a girl, have literally no girlfriends I can talk to about it. So it's me and my boyfriend for YouTube for help. Awesome, Lauren. You're like, so I think we have 1.5% female viewers on the channel. So I appreciate you. Hopefully you and your boyfriend can make some fun teams. My girlfriend and I make showdown teams together all the time. It's a lot of fun. It's a good way to watch football together and all that stuff. So I love that, Lauren. Thanks for being here with us. Tell your boyfriend, hey, hopefully we can help you guys make some good teams today. Do you guys do like a one-on-one head-to-head type of thing? That's what we do. It's kind of fun. We're a little spread out at quarterback here, guys. Interesting. Hank, by the way, in the chat, you do have to put a space in between vote and the number for it to register. Just a heads up. Who are you replacing for Gaskin? Deandre Washington is who we're expecting to get the most of the volume there. Maybe not the full Gaskin role, but I mean, I think he could touch the ball 15 times. I think that's reasonable. Was on Desean until Cooks was out. Yeah, Worm. I thought that stack was super interesting because we always get Desean at somewhat lower ownership. Last week, no one wants to play him because obviously no Will Fuller. Kiki comes in, takes a lot of that role down the field, which was a surprising, I guess, result for me overall. But yeah, I'm kind of bummed about the Cooks thing. It's very condensed there. I mean, you can't say that. The Houston game overall is somewhat interesting. We'll get there, guys. We'll get there. Looks like a lot of Aaron Rodgers and Justin Herbert love. You know, I almost didn't put Justin Herbert in this poll because I was hoping he would be a little bit more sneaky than it looks like he's going to be now. Earlier in the week, I was hoping that we'd get Justin Herbert at like sub 5, sub 8. I think he's going to be closer to 8 to 10 in my stakes. If you guys, haven't been around for all of the shows throughout the year, I play kind of the mid-level, higher stakes type of contest, mostly smaller field stuff like 250 and down, 3 max single entry type of things. So the ownership tends to kind of condense a little bit more at those stakes versus something like the Millionaire Maker with like 100,000 people. So it's very interesting. All right, so that poll is officially done. Where did we end up here? Let's open it up. Aaron Rodgers is the winner, 107 votes. So you're going to tell me that we got 650 people in here, over 200 likes, and only 108 of you guys want to get involved in the polls? What's that all about? Is it because it's sub only? I know about half of you out there are not subscribed to the channel, by the way. That's a fact. I can look that up in the data. So maybe that's why we're not getting as many votes. Maybe I'll take that off of sub only. I'd rather just get your guys' take on it. All right, let's do this, guys. Let's move over to the NFL data table over at linemovement.com. If you haven't been here before, linemovement.com, resources tab, NFL data table. I just actually recorded a video to walk through a bunch of, I guess, some of these abbreviations, some of these technical terms that we use. But basically what we did here is try to bring everything together at each position that I think really matters, but like condense it, right? So this is what I'm using to build lineups because I really focus on things that I think truly matter for DFS and for fantasy, right? So we do have ownership projections in here. We have the DraftKings FanDuel pricing, of course. We do have some Vegas data from blitzbet.eu, of course. And then at each position, some things that I think truly matter, right? So average intended air yards. We want quarterbacks that are willing to push the ball downfield. We want quarterbacks that are efficient as well. So completion percentage above or below expectation is something we're looking at for efficiency. We'll see some of the best quarterbacks in the league hit this metric. Kirk Cousins, very efficient. We know he can throw the deep ball. Russell Wilson, Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers, Desean Watson. Derek Carr has been very efficient this year. So I love this metric. It's a next-gen stat when looking at efficiency. We want quarterbacks that are going to run too, guys. We do. So if we look past some of the quarterbacks that are obviously not on the main slate, Lamar and Cam, we have Kyler in here. We have tailed down his rushing yard projection, maybe still a little bit high, but it looks like he did practice in full most of the week. So kind of have a little bit of contrarian interest in Kyler. He's tougher to stack efficiently because Nuke is so expensive, but it is kind of interesting. Daniel Jones back at 1%. He'll run. Russell Wilson, Taysom Hill, Desean Watson. There's some decent running options here at low ownership this week. But at the quarterback position, guys, I think one of the things that Noel in the chat says Trubisky season. Yeah, so I guess let me ask you this, Noel. Where are you at on Trubisky versus the lower end of the quarterback spectrum? Like, I don't even want to say the name, but Jalen Hurts. Where are you at on Trubisky versus Jalen Hurts, Noel? Because if you're going to run out a naked quarterback, just hope he gets you 15, 20, and I guess allows you to play some of these other guys. I'm trying to figure out if I have any lean between those two. Maybe the ceiling's not that high for any of them, but they're very cheap. But let's start at the top, guys. At the top end of the salary spectrum, Patrick Mahomes. He's 8,100. He's 8,900 on FanDuel. About 10% ownership. I think the higher stakes, he might be even a little bit higher than that. One thing that I really like about this data sheet overall, again, James McCool helped us build some of these metrics out. Red zone percentage of pass attempts. So this is a little bit of adjusted as well. So we want, in theory, we want these quarterbacks that are willing to throw the ball a lot in the red zone and closer to the scoring position, right? So Patrick Mahomes, Desean Watson, these guys are throwing close to the goal line versus running a lot. So I think that's super valuable for sure. But Patrick Mahomes, this massive team total against Miami. This Miami defense is definitely the real deal as well. So it's going to be an interesting one. I definitely think that Tyreek definitely in play. Kelsey definitely in play. All those guys. But in terms of Patrick Mahomes, he's still someone that's willing to push the ball downfield. We know that. He's been efficient. He's not going to give us the crazy rushing yards of some of these other guys. So it's kind of interesting. He's cheaper than Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson on FanDuel. So I'll say that. I think that like the talent involved in this Chiefs offense always kind of leans me that way, especially if around the 10% ownership range. These guys really have to go crazy to hit all their like if you're triple stacking Mahomes, we've seen it work out in recent weeks for sure. We've seen it, but they really have to go off to meet these salaries. So Mahomes is probably the highest raw projection on the slate at quarterback, I would imagine. But I do think it's kind of interesting to figure out other options on this slate in order to get in guys like Devante Adams, get in guys like maybe some Derrick Henry, which we'll get to. So let's move down. Russell Wilson, 200 in savings. He's actually a little bit more expensive, $100 more on FanDuel. Where are we at on the let Russ cook movement, guys? So matchups, obviously a much better matchup than Miami for Patrick Mahomes. So that's good. The Jets like bottom three in basically any metric you could look at. I could list them, but we beat here a while. I think the floor ceiling of Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, still incredibly high, regardless of like if there's definitely a threat that maybe they end up kind of skewing towards like the old Seattle, old Russell Wilson type of volume, which is definitely a concern. High total. I think there's going to be some plays in this game overall. We know who to pair him with. I don't know if there's anyone that can stop DK Metcalf on the Jets, even if they try and double coverage, that sort of stuff. If Russ is going to be sub 10, I have a lot of interest in Russ today, guys. One of the things that I look at as well is I don't look at a lot of like straight defense metrics, but I do like to get an idea if a team is better at defending in the short area of the field or the deep area of the field. So one thing that I think is interesting about Russ, this Jets team 26 in the league at defending the deep ball. Very below average for sure. He is the guy that'll throw it deep. We know that. There's some rushing equity here. So I think at the higher end of the salary spectrum, like Russ, like I don't know. I think more interest in Russ than most people this week. I know he's going to be like somewhat popular, but it's very condensed there as well. I don't know. I think on FanDuel where touchdowns are just so important, like we're going to see more ownership go towards like DK Metcalf and that sort of thing. But on DraftKings, it's a tough price tag, $7,900. And I think the reason it's tough is because I think in that range, most people are just going to play Aaron Rodgers, right? 7,500 on DraftKings, 9,100 on FanDuel. They're playing indoors against Detroit. Like, we're talking about the Jets. Like, just play everyone against Detroit too, right? Detroit has been just horrendous on defense. 28th in yards per play allowed. Talking about like teams that pass in the red zone, you can definitely throw the Packers into that group as well. I think that Aaron Rodgers to Devante Adams, I have a hard time. Like, looking at the thumbnail, guys, or who are we scared to fade? Who are like our instant locks? That kind of thing. Devante Adams is a sick play this week with like not a slate where we have like a lot of guaranteed ceiling at running back outside of maybe Derrick Henry, but we've seen it. Like Derrick Henry, like if they get behind, he can get completely game script out. Now, I don't think that's going to happen this week because they're playing Jacksonville, but you guys know what I'm saying. Like Aaron Rodgers, like going for the MVP if you want the narrative side of it, but if you want the data side of it, they're just throwing a lot in the red zone. So who is he going to throw to? He's going to throw to Devante Adams. So on a site like FanDuel, where touchdowns are so valuable, I still have some interest at Rodgers to Adams, even at the elevated price tags for sure. So I think those are like the top end guys that most people would be considering. Desean Watson, someone that we talked a little bit about in the chat here before we got moving. Looks like Brandon Cooks is out. So that's kind of interesting overall. I think that changes a little bit, but I was loving this 2% Desean Watson number. Another team that passes in the red zone a good amount. Not a very high total, but a tight spread, so maybe it goes back and forth a little bit. I know Noel in the chat was talking a little bit about Trubisky. Nice price discount for Trubisky. Watson's been balling out, though, guys. Since Bill O'Brien's been fired, this has been an offense that I probably haven't played enough of, but still have been grabbing pieces of it, especially these lower owned pieces. So Kiki Kute, this is a big test without Cooks. Do we think he can do it? One thing that's interesting, I talk to Matt Harmon every week about wide receivers. He knows more about wide receivers than anyone, literally, probably in the world. So he thinks that Kiki can win in a lot of different ways. And one mistake that I probably made is not looking deep into it enough last week. And I think that if we're looking at Kiki, he's someone that can still win downfield in those Will Fuller type of routes. So that's super interesting to me. 2% for Watson. If more people move away because of this Cook stuff, I don't know. Maybe we get like a super cheap Watson to Akins to Cooks type of stack. I think that's kind of interesting. Gary Hobbs in the chat with the super chat. Thank you so much, my man. Definitely not necessary, but it's easier to see as I'm working through here. So I appreciate it. It says thoughts on Matt Stafford. Let's look into Matt Stafford, Gary. Gary, I appreciate your super chats as always, my man. It's very, very, very nice of you. So let's look at Stafford here for Gary. So Matt Stafford. Whew. He's not popping in a lot of stuff to start here. Let's say this. Is he even in here? I don't even see him. Did we miss him? No, he's right there. Okay, 5,700. Wow, okay. Price tag. They're a team that runs a little bit more in the red zone, so that's a slight concern. The O-line, D-line advantage, neutral. Neutral team total. 7.5 point underdog. Good matchup deep against Green Bay. Average intended air yards is there. Above average, at least. His efficiency hasn't been very good, but they've been banged up a lot of the year, right? 5,700. So if we're just looking at some of the cheaper options here, everyone is falling over themselves to play Aaron Rodgers, right? What do we know about quarterback and correlation? That quarterback and opposing quarterback, one of the highest correlations there is, right? So if there's going to be good game script here, which I think there will be, for Matt Stafford, why is no one talking about Marvin Jones? The Stafford to Marvin Jones stack? So Gary, I think I don't hate the play, honestly. I think in a vacuum, I just prefer to have, like, it's probably something that to a fault I do emphasize a little bit too much. I prefer Trubisky, like Daniel Jones, these guys that still have upside with their legs. Jalen Hurts, I guess you can throw into that category. But the stack, like the clear stacking option of Stafford to Marvin Jones, bring it back with Devante Adams. We talk about these skinny stacks. I think it's great, especially if it's sub 5%. In a great game environment, in a dome, reasonable total. I got no problem with it, Gary. And that's not one that I was really on, so I'm glad we looked at that a little bit deeper. Thank you so much. Swaggy says he loves Ayuk. Bring that up in the wide receiver section, Swaggy. I have some thoughts on Ayuk for sure. Is Matt Ryan a decent play? Tyler, I'm glad you brought up Matt Ryan because I love this game overall. Justin Herbert, he actually was pretty high in our poll that we just did. I think that Justin Herbert's still a pretty strong play. We just saw basically what the Patriots were able to do to him last week. I think it's a great bounce back spot. This Atlanta defense, people don't realize that they're pretty strong against the run overall. So I think this game, Matt Ryan at 5,700, kind of in that Stafford category, right? No Julio, so clean stack to Ryan, to Calvin Ridley, to Russell Gage. I think that one probably is going to be, I guess, moderately owned. So I have some interest in Matt Ryan stacks for sure. Easy bring back on the other side if you want to go with Eckler. I think that we saw the floor for Eckler last week, right? We'll get to that more at the running back section. But in terms of Herbert, I love the idea of just having Herbert to Keenan Allen types of stacks this week when I think a lot of people at wide receiver might go elsewhere. Who am I replacing Gaskin with? Yeah, Kenny, I think it's going to be DeAndre Washington, man. Yeah. Ryan is terrible this year, says Aaron Rasmus. Maybe, but he's still going to throw the ball a lot. And that's what really matters in these type of situations. Like we talk about volume being not as important as efficiency, and that's definitely true. But I think that when you're trying to stack, you want these very condensed offenses, right? You want to make sure you hit on that quarterback to wide receiver stack. So I've been trying to get a little bit more comfortable with some of these guys that don't run. I don't think it's optimal by any means, but in a good game environment, yeah, I think Matt Ryan's fine. I prefer Herbert, but Herbert's $1,100 more, right? Herbert's going to run a little bit. Like, I understand it. I understand that part of the play. But I think that Matt Ryan's fine. I do. I like that game more than most people, I feel like, still. I think that Julio's out is fine. But yeah, I still really like that game. Brady against Vikes. Late night Darren. Thanks for bringing that up, man. Guys, by the way, if anyone's here for the first time, we'd love it if you consider subscribing to the channel. Toss a like on this video. Helps more people find it. I just literally unplugged my headphones. Anyone ever done that? Hope I didn't break anything. Hopefully you guys can still hear me. There we go. Okay. So toss a like on this video if you can. Let's try and get to 300 likes in the next 5 to 10 minutes. I think that 300 threshold, maybe we get over 1K again today. That'd be really cool, guys. We've got over 1K concurrent viewers a couple times this year. Be really cool to do it again. And you guys can help out directly with that. Let's talk a little bit about that Tampa Bay and Minnesota game. Another game that I think is going to be up tempo. Definitely one that overall, we talked about condensed offenses. No one wants to play these Vikings still. What's that all about? We've been having some fun playing Vikings around here recently. So Kirk Cousins, he's 6,200. Average intended air yards. Kirk Cousins is above average by a lot, 8.9 average intended air yards per attempt. But guys, this metric is the one that always stands out to me. 5.6 completion percent above expectation. So he's been very efficient, and he's been very efficient with the deep ball, an area that Tampa Bay has kind of struggled with. Not a lot of rushing there, but 6,200 with very clear guys to pair with him. Tampa Bay, it's a pass funnel for sure, right? No one's going to play Dalvin Cook, but Thielen and Jefferson guys, they're expensive. This is not a cheap stack. You bring it back with someone on Tampa Bay. Maybe you find gold with one of those Tampa Bay options. I love this game overall because I think there's going to be pass attempts on both sides. I haven't played a lot of Tom Brady, I guess, historically. I think he's a little bit too expensive. But this Vikings defense is not good. So if we're just looking clearly at some things here, Minnesota doesn't pressure at all, right? So the number one advantage on the entire slate in terms of offensive line versus defensive line and protection, Tom Brady is going to have all the time in the world back there. And that's a big problem for Minnesota. Give Tom Brady time, just any quarterback time. The efficiency can go through the roof. So they do pass a decent amount of the red zone. We like that. A lot of plays, high team total. They're a slight favorite, obviously not a full touchdown favorite there. Tom Brady's been throwing it deeper than people realize. The efficiency number is not great, but I think it goes up in this spot when he's going to have a ton of time against Minnesota. No rushing yards. My issue with Tom Brady is the stacking partners a little bit because he spreads it out so much. He's going to find the open guy. Sometimes it's a little bit tougher to stack. Also, the fact that it's not condensed there at all is a big problem for the ceiling of the pass catchers. So Evans, Godwin, Antonio Brown, Gronk, all these guys, right? I don't know if they all get there. So normally we talk about these guys that don't rush, and we try and make sure that we get Brady stacks, double stacked, triple stacked. I don't know, because he spreads it around so much that I don't know if that's really super viable. I think that you just kind of have to get lucky on a skinny with Brady. Maybe it's Gronk. Maybe you take care of tight end. Gronk gets in the end zone. He's been seeing a ton of targets. I've been seeing deeper targets actually as well, which is interesting. So I have some interest in like skinny stacks with Brady, Gronk, bring back with either Jefferson or Thielen. So I think that's, I guess, somewhat of a tiebreaker in favor of Kirk. But I think the volume is probably safer with Brady. Kirk, we just know that it's a great spot. I think he catches Thielen or Jefferson deep for a couple today. One guy we haven't talked about at all yet, just kind of crazy. Taysom Hill. He's 6,600 against this Philly team that is not very good. Talk about condensed target shares. Taysom Hill has 2 reads. He has Michael Thomas, and he has running. So I like that quite a bit. So Taysom Hill, 6,600. Decent offensive line. I mean, I guess Philly's not very good, right? The team total is reasonable. He's not throwing deep much at all. I think the argument here is just that the floor is very safe. The problem with Taysom is he's kind of getting up there in terms of price. 6,600 for this guy, right? 6,600 for Taysom Hill when we can get Kyler Murray at sub 5 for 72. We can get let's just look at the exact price range. Taysom Hill, 6,600. We could get Tannehill for 67. We haven't even talked about Tannehill yet. I think Tannehill is a fantastic play today. We can get Justin Herbert for a little bit more expensive. So like these guys in that range, we can go down and get Kirk Cousins. So I don't know. I think that it's a weird price point for Taysom Hill is my official stance on it. I don't know if I'll have any. He did look pretty good last week though, Steven. I'm with you on that. Monty in the chat says, would you double stack Cousins with a wide receiver and Conklin? You could. I mean, if you just want to, get real gross at tight end, you could. Yeah, I prefer just Thielen and Jefferson with Kirk personally. That skinny with Gronk and Rojo. Yeah, Rojo's price bothers me on DraftKings personally. I think he's okay on FanDuel though. Do you have to stack Brady maybe with just Gronk since he's so cheap? Yeah, maybe you don't have to stack Brady. I think that's fine, Aaron. And you just hope he throws it to 4 different guys, and Brady's the only one that truly gets there from a ceiling perspective. I think that's fine. Guys, we are approaching that infamous 1K concurrent viewers. Did we hit it again today? That'd be pretty cool. So I think that's pretty much where I'm at on quarterback, guys. I think Aaron Rodgers, again, fantastic play. These top-end guys, these Rodgers, Mahomes, Russell Wilson type of plays today, they're going to be popular. They're going to be popular for a reason, right? On a slate where it's hard to find ceiling overall, quarterback seems to be one that there is a decent amount of ceiling there today. Should we move on to running back, guys? Should we? I'll remind anyone here that maybe is here for the first time, directly after this on the Line Movement YouTube channel, I'll go through the entire slate with Dieter and Peter Overzet, game by game. This is more of a position by position type of breakdown for you guys. So hopefully, guys, we might make 350 here very shortly. So let's do this, guys. Let's end this poll. Appreciate everyone that contributes to the polls, by the way. It's fun to get you guys involved with that stuff. Top running back. Price considered for week 14. This is a sub-only vote, so you have to be subscribed to the channel to get there. Appreciate that anyways, guys, definitely. I know about half of you out there. You're not subscribed, but I'll keep firing this out here. Derrick Henry, Austin Eckler, DeAndre Washington, J.D. McKissick, David Montgomery, or other. In order to place your vote in the chat, !vote, space, and the number. Where are we at on running back, guys? The running back slate was absolutely flipped on its head, as Peter Overzet would say, yesterday. So let's see where we're at here. I always like to spend a little bit more time on quarterbacks so we can talk through some of the stacks and that sort of stuff. I did miss a super chat. Talib, thank you for your $2 super chat, my man. Fading Evans, miss at his price. A.J. Brown is the pivot. Fading Evans, 7-106 for one. So you think he gets 7 catches, 100 yards, and a touchdown, and it's not enough at the price, is kind of what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, is that the floor for Devante Adams today? 7 for 106 and 1. He's expensive for sure. I don't want to be on the fade Adams side today, and I'm going to tell you why. There's a couple reasons, obviously, and we'll get to it deeper at the wide receiver position. But this is a slate where we have to be cognizant of late swap. And what do we need for late swap? We need salary to work with, guys. We need salary. So Devante Adams fits that bill for sure, obviously in the 4:25 p.m. Eastern time game, which is very nice. So by default, and since we're at running back right now, that's somewhat of a reason to be a little bit lighter on Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry's at 1 p.m. So if you fade Derrick Henry in favor of some Devante Adams type of stacks later on or type of plays later on, you have that information. So what happened with Derrick Henry and the chalk basically in the morning? If Derrick Henry fails, you're feeling pretty good about your Devante Adams. If Derrick Henry goes for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns, you're probably not playing Adams anyways, right? You're pivoting to something a little bit more lower owned that still has a ceiling. You're pivoting to like a Ridley, or you're pivoting to like a Keenan Allen, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, something like that. And at that point, you're just hoping they basically pass Devante Adams, and that's the play, right? So you have to. There's 2 things you can do with late swap in the morning. You can have some teams that are super light on chalk, and you take a few shots with some guys that you like that might be a little bit under-owned, or you play some chalk, and if it works out, you can stay optimal the rest of the way. So that's how we should be thinking about that. Talib, I definitely I don't want to be light on Adams for kind of those reasons. There's more of a game, like it's a game, right? We got to like look at our lineups as the morning and the afternoon is progressing, and Adams is it gives you flexibility to make some different type of decisions later. Worm says late swap is a weak part of my game. I do have a late swap video, by the way, on the channel. I guess I can try and find that quickly. We're about to approach 1K viewers. Can we hit it? We're teasing it right now. We have a couple people on Twitch and Periscope right now. We just did it. 1K. Great job, guys. Anyone that's liked the video today, you're probably a big part of the reason that we hit 1K concurrent. So I appreciate you guys. Where are we at on this poll? Let me bring it back up. Where do we end? Wow, this is actually pretty flat. Top running back price considered for week 14. It looks like, wow, it's really close. Derrick Henry, other. I got to scroll up in the chat here. Where are we at on others, guys? Alex Hahn says Gio Bernard week. I kind of like Gio. In that price range of guys that are going to be much more chalky. Are we going with Cook at all today? Cook or Cooks? Cooks is out. Cook is in a very tough matchup, very expensive, who we'll get to super. Vote 6, Melvin Gordon. Interesting body. Interesting. Maybe Zeke or Gio on DK. I'm just trying to scroll through and see if I can see some of these others. Luga says fade Henry. It's a scary fade, man. It's a scary fade. But like Derrick Henry at this type of ownership, this is when he goes nuts, right? And just rewards people that aren't playing the game theory game, I guess. Tony A says Gallman. I think Gallman's okay. Jonathan Taylor from Carlos. Garrett says Devontae 50 bomb incoming. Man, there's a lot of things that would, I guess, shock me on the slate. That's not one of them. I could see it for sure. Swaggy says Henry lock button. I hate having to make that decision. It's very tough to play both unless you're really paying down a quarterback. Brett says he loves Aaron Jones again this week. So maybe that's the leverage, right? If you fade Derrick Henry, he goes crazy, and you feel like you can't play Devante Adams again. Maybe Aaron Jones helps get you there at a little bit lower ownership. I don't hate that. I don't hate that at all. All right, so we're pretty flat here, guys. Let's jump over the data table now. We have the technology. So again, over 1K concurrent viewers right now. Appreciate everyone that's here for the first time. This is the line movement data table. So when we go through each position, this is what I'm using to build my lineup. So you go to linemovement.com, resources tab, NFL data table. This is a free resource, guys. This is something that I used to make available to all of my Twitch subscribers. Now it's free on Line Movement. So we got pricing in here. We got ownership projections. We do have a leverage score that James McCool helped us develop. So basically, it takes into consideration ownership. It takes into consideration ceiling. So we use that at running back, wide receiver, and tight end. So we'll get to that in a second. Red zone, basically what teams are running a lot in the red zone, right? New England, Carolina, the Jets, the Rams, the Giants, this Gallman play, right? Team total. We got a lot of Vegas data in here from blitzbet.eu, of course. Some projections in terms of touches. We know that volume is king at running back, guys. We do have a super chat, so let me pivot over to that for a second. Heart of Pax, 199 super chat. Thank you so much, my man. It says, any news on Crowder? Thoughts on Berrios if out? I think Berrios is strong. I do. He's 3K, right? So Perriman 3,900 would be my preference for sure. Denzel Mims is out. Jamison Crowder looks like he's still questionable. Let me see if we have anything else on that. You guys got to keep me updated on news right now, right? Nothing late. He was a late addition to the injury report, limited at practice on Thursday. So it looks like he's still questionable with that calf injury. So yeah, Berrios at 3K. Interesting. I just like these cheaper Jets guys, right? The concern is always just that maybe if they get down, they still run the ball, right? It's Adam Gase. We have no idea what they're going to do. I mean, if you think they should do something, just assume that they're going to do the opposite, right? Doozy says, 60% of you have failed to smash the like button. Hate to see it. What's up, Doozy? How's it going, my man? Lauren, I'll get into Jonathan Taylor for you guys. I think that's interesting for sure. Matt Shermer, the low-owned lock is Gio. DeAndre Swift. We are very, very spread out at running back right now. So let's get into it. Let's talk about the top end first. So Dalvin Cook, he's 9,400. He's going to be sub 10%. In theory, this is when you'd want to get on Dalvin Cook, right? The volume for this guy is just absolutely insane. When does he break down at this point, guys? We should have set a different poll for that. So just over the last few weeks, rush attempts, 32, 18, 27, 30. Receptions, 6, 4, 5, 4. So literally last week, the guy touched the ball 38 times. 38 times at a position where volume matters the most. Terrible matchup against Tampa Bay. This is a team that has definitely, if you care about, I don't look at defensive metrics at running back as much as most people. You guys know this by now. But at the tails, the best and the worst, I do think it matters. So Tampa Bay, a team that we've seen shut down Christian McCaffrey in the past. But I guess you have to ask yourself, if Dalvin Cook touches the ball 30 times again, does he pay off that price tag of 9,400? Does it make it worth the risk at sub 10%? I'm not sure. He's one of our highest leverage plays of the entire slate. He's our number one leverage play at running back. Again, this is a metric that takes into consideration ownership and ceiling. Doesn't take into consideration matchup, though. But we don't want to double count those type of things. We talk about that with projections a lot. The projection's baked in, like all the matchup stuff, the Vegas data, all that is baked into the projection. So no use just like basically counting it again. The touches should be there. So I think he's an interesting tournament play, not a core play by any means. So moving down, let's talk about the big dog, Derrick Henry. So Derrick Henry, last week we see them like fall way behind, right? Like they were literally down by what, 30 points at half, something crazy like that. So at that point, they really just can't continue to just run the ball with Derrick Henry into the line 25 times. So that's the floor, right? For a guy that doesn't catch passes. The ceiling comes in a week like this where we think they're going to be up against Jacksonville. If he ends up getting his 20 touches, 25 touches in this game, we're projecting from about 22 right now. It's tough to plug hole, I guess, to poke holes in anything about Derrick Henry outside of this number right here. If he's going to be 30% owned and he fails somehow, like we've seen, like what was there? There was another week earlier this year where Derrick Henry was like, oh, you have to play Derrick Henry. You have to play Derrick Henry in this matchup. And he goes out there and gets like 80 yards, maybe a touchdown. I can't remember. Didn't hit his salary for sure. If you fade Derrick Henry at 1 p.m. in favor of a guy like Devante Adams or like some high, I guess some leverage type of stacks later, if you fade Derrick Henry, there's a lot of ground that you can make up on the field here because of this 30% number. So if you play Derrick Henry, which I think is totally okay, by the way, I will have some Derrick Henry today. I think the rest of your roster has to be a little bit different. You don't want to hold hands with all the Derrick Henry people and the rest of the chalk, right? So like, for example, I'm probably not playing Derrick Henry and J.D. McKissic together. I'm probably not playing Derrick Henry and David Montgomery together. That sort of stuff. Like one of those running back slots, I think you got to get a little bit more different. So how do you get different at running back? To me, it's by finding guys that are going to see the ball a decent amount, but people are just overlooking. So we talk about Dalvin Cook. Dalvin's expensive. So what are some other options? James Robinson, sub 10%. People still don't want to play this guy. In the same game. Very active in the passing game. We don't have to worry about guys taking away his goal line role. So I think James Robinson is still very, very much in play for sure. I mean, let's just look at his touch counts over the last few games. 26, 25, 24, 19, 27. Like this guy, the volume is there, right? He has 4 or more catches in 7 of his last 10 games, 9 touchdowns on the season. So he hasn't had like a true like crazy ceiling performance. So maybe that's still why this price is there and the ownership is there. They see the Jacksonville, they see the ownership. So maybe that's one that people just don't want to be fully on board with, that just, I guess, can look past the volume a little bit. I'm not one of those people. So if this ownership number is right, I'm kind of interested in James Robinson in the spot. Aaron Jones, this is actually a little bit higher than I thought he would come in at, 18%. So like we have people in the chat and earlier this week saying that, oh, if you're not playing Devante Adams, oh, just play Aaron Jones. Worked for us. Remember like that week, it was like week 3 or 4, it was like early on. People are saying like Aaron Jones is the clear pivot. I don't think so. 18%. What are you leveraging on the field at 18%? Nothing. So I don't think Aaron Jones is the pivot off of Adams personally. We'll get to that at the end. We'll talk about some late swap options. I do think Aaron Jones is still a solid play. High team total, all that good stuff. Everyone, the narrative, I guess, is that Aaron Rodgers going for the MVP. All they do is throw in the red zone. Detroit's bad, and Detroit can't stop the run. So I'd be shocked if Aaron Jones doesn't get in the box today. The volume is more the concern, right? 17 touches for a guy at 7,600. That's a tough one to swallow. So if we move down a little bit, someone in the chat mentioned Zeke at 4%. I think that makes some sense. I'm going to project it for 20 touches right now. 6,600 for him seems too cheap. Everyone wants to talk about Ronald Jones. So let's indulge the Ronald Jones people today. Ronald Jones, 6,100, 5% ownership. Decent leverage, 64 leverage score. In this spot where 67, I was on the wrong thing there. Okay. Number one, Tampa Bay doesn't run in the red zone very often. We just see Adams. We just see Mike Evans just catching these really short touchdowns, right? The team total's great. The touches, 17 is, to be completely transparent, that's higher than I thought I would see from Ronald Jones here. He's not that active in the passing game. I think he's too expensive. On FanDuel, I think he's a great play, 6,300 on FanDuel. So I think that's one that makes more sense. So I think that's interesting. McKissic at 4,900 is another guy that people want to talk about. I think McKissic is fine, honestly. Like we've seen the ceiling there of these massive receiving games from him, right? So I think it's more of a DraftKings play for sure. Obviously, with Antonio Gibson out, Peyton Barber is going to see a little bit of that role, but not much of it probably. So if McKissic is going to get his 9, 10 targets in this spot, he's fine. I don't know if he has like a true ceiling spot unless he can get into the box a few times. But if he's like 15 to 20%, he's one that I could see myself trying to find other options for if I was like running out a Derrick Henry team, for example. So there's that. Kendricks is out. That helps Ronald Jones. Okay, that's interesting, Iceman. People want to talk about Melvin Gordon, Mike Davis. We'll get to those guys. Any love for Gio Bernard? So Gio Bernard is one that, I haven't played Gio in a long time, right? He's 5K. But here's the thing. In this price range, let's scroll down a little. Let's add a couple of these guys. We got Wayne Gallman, 2%. We got Melvin Gordon, 2%. Gio Bernard, 3%. Some of these guys are projected to see a decent amount of volume here. 16 touches for Gio, 3 catches through the air against Dallas. This Dallas team cannot stop the run. Did you guys see what Baltimore did to them? So at 5K, I see Gio as like a reasonable pivot off of McKissic. Am I crazy? Duke Johnson, maybe. Those type of guys. So like I guess the thing that's nice about McKissic is there's a couple other options down there. Melvin Gordon's someone that I never really play. And just like a quick look at this, like it's a lot of red here, right? Denver doesn't run in the red zone very often. Not a lot of plays. This is going to be a slow pace game. Low total. We know touchdowns matter, guys. 13 touches. So like Melvin Gordon's probably not in play for me. I prefer some of these other options. I prefer Gio. I prefer maybe like someone even like Gallman. Definitely prefer McKissic. Let's talk about DeAndre Washington. He's 4K. Where are we at on DeAndre Washington, guys? 11:35 in the chat right now. Thank you so much for being here, guys. Gio is horrible, though. That's a concern. I don't disagree with you, Live 4. Sometimes we just got to play volume, though. And on the subject of playing volume, DeAndre Washington, he's 4K. Myles Gaskin, surprisingly out on the COVID list now. So Matt Breida, Ahmed, also out. So literally in this backfield right now, we have DeAndre Washington and Patrick Laird. Eli McGuire, I guess. He's like the newly signed guy there. Washington is really the only one of these guys that I could see carrying the load. So if he gets 13 carries and 4 targets, is it worth that 4K price tag against Kansas City? I think it is, personally. This is an ownership number that will definitely change, by the way. I'm going to have to get that updated after this. So 16 touches we're projecting for him right now. He's 4K. So DeAndre Washington is someone, if I had to just guess, I think he'll be like 20% owned, 25% owned, higher at the higher stakes. So I think he's strong. I do. I think this is a slate. If like you're asking yourself, should I pay like a mid 5K range and then X wide receiver, or you're deciding between Washington and Devante Adams, I think the stars and scrubs approach is the one that I'm going to be on today, guys. Albatross says, for 4K, hell yes. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, man. I actually don't think that Washington is terrible. Just have to hope Washington isn't Brian Hill. Yeah, that's fair. Washington is the best value on this slate. Yeah, I think that's probably true. Very good flex, Arnold. Yeah, but I believe it is the 4 p.m. game, so that's nice. Let's look at something for a second. So if you are looking at the 4 p.m. slate only and the running backs, let's go full screen for this because I think it's important. So if we're looking at just the 4 p.m. and you do have someone like Washington early, obviously he's in the 1 p.m. game, right? So if Washington does really well in the morning, then you can probably stay where you're at. If Washington fails, we're going to have to try and find some leverage, right, for the rest of the way. So I think some of the top leverage options, if we're talking late swap, normally we save this for the end, but now that we're talking about Washington and we're talking about Derrick Henry, we need to figure out what some of these guys are. Someone in the chat mentioned Chris Carson. Yeah, Chris Carson could end up being like 5 to 8%, something like that, at 6,900 against the Jets. So if you're thinking of it this way, right? If we think there's going to be some ownership on Seattle, how do we leverage that? It's through someone like Chris Carson. He's probably a little bit too expensive. He's 6,900. Only had 13 rush attempts last week. He did have 6 targets. That's kind of a nice number for Chris Carson. So I think that's interesting. If we're just looking at like leverage overall, Josh Jacobs is one that's popping a little bit for me, but I'd be a little bit more worried about that injury and the matchup against Indy. What about Terry McLaurin, guys? No one, like, he puts up a dud last week, 6 targets, 2 catches for 14 yards. I have no problem going back to Terry McLaurin at 6,700 at sub 5%. I think he's a guy that if you're in trouble, like you play a guy like Washington, it fails. You play a guy like Derrick Henry, it fails. You got to make up some ground, right? So I think Terry McLaurin's interesting. Someone like Darren Waller, who most people are just going to play Travis Kelsey, I think that's interesting. Calvin Ridley in that price point. Like if Calvin Ridley's 10% in your contest, you're probably not just running right into that ownership of Devante Adams, of like Aaron Jones, of Marvin Jones, that sort of stuff, or Keenan Allen. I think Keenan Allen is an interesting one as well for leverage. So we'll dig into that a little bit more. I just wanted to touch on that quickly as we were going through running back here, guys. If anyone is here for the first time, would love it if you kind of stick around for the Line Movement show directly after this. One thing I want you guys to do when you get over there, I want you to say, "We are back" in the chat, so I know where you came from. All right? Is Aaron Jones a lock? Not for me, Nabil. He's a great play. I don't think he's a lock. I like that Ed Mess is on board with McLaurin. That makes me feel better. Ed Mess is always dropping comments on the YouTube videos, lots of sharp things. I read all of those, by the way, guys. I read every single comment. I try and respond to as many as I can. How about Cam Sims, Jordan Reed secondary correlation? Maybe. I'm really on the Jordan Reed train. Debo. Yeah, Debo's the guy. I like Debo quite a bit. Okay, let's finish off running back here, guys. We're getting off track. So, who have we not talked about at running back? Mike Davis, 6,400 in this spot against Denver. Projecting him for about 17 touches, 4 receptions. No DJ Moore in this spot. Maybe that helps Mike Davis, and maybe not for the reason that you might think. Curtis Samuel and Robbie Anderson, both amazing plays. We'll get to that at wide receiver. But if Curtis Samuel ends up playing more of the traditional wide receiver role because DJ Moore is out, maybe we see more of those dump offs to Mike Davis that we were seeing before. So I think that the Carolina stack is actually somewhat sneaky. But Mike Davis is 6,400 for the price. He's probably not going to pop as being like the top value or anything, but I think he's still okay in tournaments. I wish he wasn't in the morning game. He would have made a really nice pivot. So I think that's okay. Eckler bounce back. I do like Eckler. So let's talk about Eckler a little bit. What do I have him projected for in touches? 20 touches. No, sorry. 18 touches for Austin Eckler, 6 receptions. I'm projecting Eckler for the most catches on the slate, more than J.D. McKissic right now. So Eckler overall, like we saw it last week, one of the worst performances we've seen from an offense all year. He still gets 10 DraftKings points because he gets fed passing game volume. So the floor is very high. We know he's a good player overall, so like the efficiency should be there. The Falcons are somewhat of a pass funnel, so it's not a great matchup on the ground. We talked about that a little bit. Falcons actually allowing the second fewest running back rushing yards this year. So again, the tails matter at matchups and at running back for sure. So Eckler has like the type of upside still to battle through, I think that. But I think he's going to have to probably do it through the air. He's got nine or more targets in 3 consecutive games that he's been healthy with Herbert. So I think that originally I thought that he was going to be super highly owned. 13%. I have some interest in that. The touch volume's there in a game that we really like. I love this Chargers Atlanta game, even without Julio. So I think Eckler, like a lot of people maybe just like won't want to pay $7K maybe, but I prefer Eckler to Kamara. I prefer Eckler to Robinson. I prefer Eckler to moving down to Carson or Zeke. So he's kind of in a no man's land here for me to where I might end up with some. I think it makes a reasonable bring back on the other side of Atlanta stacks, mini stacks, like Ridley Eckler types of plays, Gage Eckler types of plays. I like it. Huge week for Ronald Jones, Jaden says. What do you feel about that price? Cody Huffman in the chat, one of our mods. Miles Sanders is a milli maker play. Let's look at Miles Sanders. First thing I want to do is leverage. Top 6 leverage guy, 1%. Against New Orleans. Tough matchup. Wow, New Orleans actually 31st at defending the short area of the field. The touches there, 16. It's borderline for me. Let me ask you this, Cody. I struggle. I think that running back targets can sometimes be more of a quarterback's I guess specific type of thing, right? We see these running quarterbacks not check it down. We see like Desean Watson. People want to fall over themselves to play Duke Johnson, but then Duke Johnson doesn't get enough work through the passing game, and he's not as good of a play. So that would be my concern with Miles Sanders, but 1%, and this Philly team just hasn't been good. I saw a tweet, and I wish I remembered the name so I can give them credit. This Philly offensive line actually hasn't been as bad as most people realize. They've gotten healthier, and it just Wentz. Wentz has been horrible. So my concern would be that Jalen Hurts doesn't check it down a ton. What did Miles Sanders end up with targets last week? Let's see. 1 target last week. Yeah, I don't think I can do it, man. If the milli maker type of play, not in the smaller field stuff. All right, we got some people in the chat want to talk about our boy DeAndre Swift. Our community, we were definitely on Swift early. Thanks, Peter Overzet, for making me do that on the Tilt Space a lot. But let's talk about him for a second. He's a guy that I haven't really been. I mean, I'm kind of, if I'm out on anything in that game, it's probably Marvin Jones on the Detroit side. But let's look at this. What are we projecting him for touches? Swift. Where are you at, buddy? Oh, wow. Swift, 9 touches. That doesn't seem right. Huh. Let me take a look at something else here. He's just not projecting for a lot of volume like across the industry right now, which I guess like 16 touches, 16 carries, 5 receptions in his last like fully healthy game. Against Green Bay, 6,500. Maybe he's a leverage spot. I have a hard time like looking at him thinking he's like any sort of decent value though. The projections are very low on him. Did I miss something on Swift? The projection's very low. I think it's hard to get on board with that price tag when we have some of the guys in the 5K range we do. Like with Montgomery in the 5K range still, or sorry, the cheaper, that he's I guess mid 6Ks now. But some of the other guys in the 5K range, McKissick and those type of guys. Yeah, I don't know. It's a trap, someone says. Beware of Eagles play caller, Doug Peterson, horrible play caller. I agree with that, Keegan. Yeah. Very interesting. We're running a lot of RPO with Hurts in the mess. It's just interesting, Cody. You're talking me into it a little bit. Running quarterback going to help Sanders on the ground. Yeah, that's probably true, Doozy. Yeah, I don't know if I can do the Swift thing, guys. Unless we see that projection go up significantly, I don't know if I can do it. Probably going to be back in a timeshare. I think you said it, Tyler. Jacobs sprained ankle versus Coltsy. Yeah, the Jacobs one scares me a little bit. I don't like ankles on my running backs. Seems bad. Overzet back from injury narrative. Maybe. For the record, I haven't heard Overzet and Leone talk about him at all this week. So far, at least. I guess that leads us right into, since we do have 1,100 people in the chat, one of the most fun shows that I do every single week. It is the Tilt Space. So we have to talk about this with Swift, right? So Peter Overzet, Michael Leone, we're playing some high stakes DFS. We played last week. We played the 4K entry on DraftKings. We've got our roll from 15K to start all the way up to like 62 at one point. Now I think we're down to like mid 40K in terms of our bankroll. So we've had some rough weeks. Hopefully we can get back on track this week overall. It's on the Tilt Space show on Line Movement YouTube channel, and that is at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. So join us for that. A lot of fun. I think Leone is one of the best players in the world right now at the smaller stakes, high stakes, smaller field type of things. So a lot of good conversation in there. But if not, if things are going well for you, if things are not going well, come tilt with us at the Tilt Space. A lot of fun. Guys, I think we need to move on to wide receiver. We talked on like almost all the running back plays that there is. So let's end this poll. We're going to complete it. And let's talk about the top elite wide receiver options. So this is a sub-only vote. I know about half you in the chat right now at least are not subscribed. So if you want to get involved in these polls, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And then also, in order to place your vote in the chat, ! Vote, space, and the number. Who is the top elite wide receiver on this slate? Who is it? Adams, Tyreek, Metcalf, Keenan Allen, Calvin Ridley. This is a really interesting elite wide receiver slate, in my opinion. So let's dive into it. Where are you guys at? We spent a little bit more time on quarterback and running back today, so we got to catch up here with wide receiver. Interesting wide receiver slate overall. But I want to see where you guys are at first. We'll do a poll directly after this with the top value options, but let's talk a little bit about the high-end wide receivers. Ryan Hodge, Leone smaller stakes makes me play micro stakes. Yeah. I say a lot of words on this stream, Ryan. Words are hard. Sometimes I get the words wrong. What's up, Hodge? I'm pumped polls are working. This makes me so happy. Let's see how many votes. Let's see if we can hit. Let's break our record for votes on a poll right now. I guess by default we might break our record for subscribers, but anyways, let's see how many votes we can get here. Don't be shy. Look at the chat right now. Chat is flowing. No one's gonna see your vote. Don't be shy. Top elite wide receiver. Pumped that we're just like cruising over 1,000 viewers this entire stream, guys. Appreciate you guys being here. More than enough just being here for sure. 31 people over on Twitch chilling. Hodge, people still watch on Twitch, man. What gives? Devante Adams, far and away the top wide receiver elite play so far for you guys. Tyler, by the way, if you put those brackets around your vote, it will not work. It has to be literally ! Vote, space, and the number for it to work. It's very touchy, these bots. But I'm just glad they're working. All right, so we got almost 100 votes in the chat. That means 10% of you guys are actually going to type something out here. Interesting. Interesting. Tough scene. You have 40 seconds left on this vote right now. Looks like Devante Adams running away with it so far. Worm says smash the like. Thanks, Worm. Appreciate you, my man. All the shrug gifts, Hodge. All right. So it looks like Devante Adams running away with this one. Yeah, he's my highest projected wide receiver by a lot. He is the highest ceiling of any player on this slate for me right now, which is saying a lot with Derrick Henry in a smash spot, right? So I think the overall environment of this game and just what we have, I mean, what we've seen them do in the red zone, throwing a ton, like Adams, like indoors, like I think even at this price tag, guys, Adams is going to be a big time priority for me. I love that he's in the later game. Let's bring this poll back up so you guys can see it. I love that he's in the later game. I love that he gives you so much equity in terms of late swaps overall because of the salary. You can move to a lot of different types of things if you have Adams in your roster that you can't do if you have a 1 p.m. guy like Derrick Henry on your teams. It's very hard to build lineups with both of them. I definitely think you can do it with some of the value that we have. But Devante Adams is a big time priority for me overall. So let's move over to the screen share here. If you're here for the first time, linemovement.com, resources tab, NFL data table. This is bringing together all the things I think are super important where I'm building my lineups. We have the Vegas data in here from blitzbet.eu, of course, but things that really matter at wide receiver. If you haven't listened to anything I've said all morning, weighted opportunity rating. You listening? Weighted opportunity rating at wide receiver. It's one of the most predictive metrics there is. Shout out Josh Hermsmeyer. It's basically a mixture of target market share and market share of air yards. So we want these guys that are occupying a very large target share in their offense, but also getting the deeper targets. So from a fantasy perspective, this is over the last 4 games. That's what we want to look at, right? Devante Adams, Michael Thomas leading the way. 0.76 weighted opportunity over the last 4 weeks. Adam Thielen, 7K. Not a lot of ownership on these two guys, by the way. Thomas and Thielen. I have some interest in both those guys for sure. Terry McLaurin, 5%. Hodge, this is a great wide receiver slate. This is a really good wide receiver slate. DK Metcalf, he's going to be owned for sure. But DK Metcalf against the Jets, I mean, there's no one on the Jets that can stop him. The concern is, do they let Russ cook? Is the game, I mean, does the Jets give us anything on the other side? That's the concern with Metcalf and with Lockett as well. But Lockett, significantly lower ownership. So the upside of playing a guy like Devante Adams or even Metcalf is if you get in trouble, you could always pivot to a guy. You could pivot to a guy like Tyler Lockett, someone like that in the later games. So Devante Adams, like it's just straight green, guys. There's really not a lot to say here. Great game environment overall. Detroit cannot pressure. So Rodgers is going to sit back there as long as he wants. Who's he going to throw to? He's probably going to throw to Devante Adams. So I don't know how many more times I can say that. In different ways to let you guys know that he's like my top priority probably on the slate. Michael Thomas, 7,100. I mean, the target share is very condensed there as well. I guess I would have some concerns with that play, but at 6%, I think he's a reasonable tournament option. Let's talk about Tyreek Hill for a second, guys. We have to do it. 8,500. Just been exploding on these, like, basically... We can't even talk about the matchup with Tyreek Hill, right? Because it doesn't matter. Targets per route run. This is actually yards per route run at wide receiver. Tight end is targets per route run on this page. Gonna have to fix that. Just notice that. So Tyreek Hill, 8,500. If we take out some of the smaller samples like Donovan Peoples-Jones, what you do basically, average routes run per game over the last 4, 6. So this sample doesn't matter. This top one. Corey Davis. That's interesting. 4 yards per route run over the last 4 games for Corey Davis. He's still 5,700. He's gonna be pretty chalky, obviously. But Tyreek Hill at 8,500. That's what we're talking about. Red zone passing rate. This adjusted metric that we have from James McCool. I'm in on Tyreek Hill. I think that Tyreek Hill is an interesting one-off as well. I know we've seen him and Kelsey go off together, but these prices, right, 8,500. It's a lot tougher for them to continue to do that. I think that Tyreek Hill, even against Miami, is a great play. I prefer Devante Adams by a pretty significant margin today, but I do think he's interesting. In terms of some guys that are going to offer some leverage, so ceiling and lower ownership at wide receiver, Calvin Ridley, Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson. It's crazy that Devante Adams is still on that. That gives you an idea of where his ceiling is right now. Marvin Jones, I think he's going to be a little bit more popular than 3%. If he's not, Marvin Jones is a fantastic play. So I like that quite a bit. Some other guys that weighted opportunity rating that we should probably touch on. We talked about McLaurin as being a potential late swap option. I like that quite a bit. These Carolina guys are just way too underpriced right now. Robbie Anderson and Curtis Samuel, right? So Robbie Anderson, 6,200, Curtis Samuel, 5,200 on DraftKings. DJ Moore is out. So that's like, 7 targets per game, roughly? And they're just going to replace that with like, who are they going to replace it with? I don't know. It's probably just going to be more for Robbie and Curtis Samuel at that point. Definitely think that like this Broncos defense, they're out. I guess they're without their top 2 cornerbacks, AJ Bouye and Bryce Callahan. So Robbie Anderson at 6,200 is a fantastic play. Like, I don't know how to say it. He's very underpriced. 0.62 weighted opportunity. His target per route, or his yards per route run, not very good. But I think that his touches go up in this spot overall. So Robbie Anderson at 62. Yeah, I'm going to have a ton of Robbie today overall. He's probably like my favorite. Like, if you have to move down past that elite tier, I think that Robbie is really strong. Can you compare A.J. Brown to Deontay Johnson? Is that a season-long question, Peter? I'm going to try and touch on those as many as I can at the end. We're going to leave a little bit more time for some start sits because I know you guys have a lot of playoff matchups going on right now. Thielen and Jefferson low owned, and the best way to attack Tampa, fire up the mini stack. Keegan, I've been on the mini stack all week, my man. I love it. Hodge, I missed your chat. Calvin Ridley today, great whopper. Tied 5th in the league in end zone targets, top 3 in air yards, sub 5%. Give me more Ridley. Love this slate. Punting, running backs, Henry. Dude, Hodge, I'm with you, man. We've been this is one of the stacks that we didn't get to earlier this week. I know you like this game. I like it without Julio for sure. Still, man, Ridley is a great play today. I'm with you. But I like the Minnesota guys a lot too. Some people in the chat talking about it a little bit. Good to know Doozy has accepted his mission from DraftKings today. Nice. Pivot to Lazard. I don't know. Lazard scares me a little bit. Harmon was talking about him as being like a super low-owned option in that game. Maybe. I'm concerned about snaps a little bit. Someone said DJ Chark. Yeah. Now you're speaking my language. On Jacksonville, if you do want to like stack, like Derrick Henry, if you're playing Derrick Henry, I think considering like Chark on the other side of it makes a lot of sense, right? If they flip the script, these big runs from Derrick Henry, if he gets there, we got Chark on the other side. We got Glennon just slinging it down the field. We got Chark leaving a ton of air yards on the field every week for sure. And he's just not going to be owned. Where is he? Where's Chark? Let's add more wide receivers here. $5,300 for Chark. 4% ownership. Yeah, this is a big play type of guy that, 0.55 weighted opportunity rating. So he's top 15 roughly at that. And he's 5,300 in a game script that should be there. Yeah, I think Chark's really strong, guys. I like it. Keegan Duffy in the chat. Shout out all the Arizona people. What's up, man? Hope you're doing well, man. I used to play hockey with Keegan Duffy like way back in the day. A lot of people in the chat right now probably don't even realize this, but I played college hockey at St. Cloud State, Minnesota. I played a little bit of minor pro after that for a couple of years, but I started in Arizona. Hope you're doing well, Keegan. How'd you find the channel, man? Wild. I haven't been back to Arizona in far too long, man. We'll have to get together. What else are we missing here in chat? Evans. Honestly, pairing Brady with someone has been something that has not been easy, right? Because Evans has been taking all the touchdowns, but he's just not getting enough work outside of that, right? Let's talk about the San Francisco options a little bit. Brandon Ayuk. I think he's kind of interesting. I think Debo, both of those guys are super interesting on like the other side of McKissick stacks or like the other side of Terry McLaurin, like mini stacks with him. I think that's fine. On the cheaper side of things, guys, one game that you can look at in general is this Dallas and Cincinnati game. We got like T. Higgins, basically, like he's extremely cheap. The matchup against Dallas, like probably can't get a lot better. No one's going to play him because of the hamstring injury that he kind of tweaked last week. So I think T. Higgins is kind of interesting in tournaments. Obviously, CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup, very underpriced overall. So if we're just looking at value options at wide receiver in general, Gallup at 3,800. We got CeeDee Lamb at 48. Both those guys are great plays. The Jets guys, obviously, we touched on earlier. Perriman at 3,900 with Mims out. Perriman is very, very strong. Braxton Berrios at 3K if you want to go down even further, I think is okay. Berrios is really only a play if Crowder is out completely for me. So we'll keep an eye on that. Do we have any Crowder news yet? Hockey, do you know Mark Ciaccio? I know Keegan knows that name. Siaccio is like a power skating specialist in Arizona. What a name to drop in the chat, Security Bluebird. Yeah, I've been on the ice with Siaccio. I haven't lived in Arizona or played hockey in Arizona since I was 17, but yeah. You play D1. I did play D1, yeah, at St. Cloud. Played roller hockey in AZ. Love the roller hockey crowd, man. We can't turn this into a hockey show, but come hang out with us on a Monday or Wednesday. 3 p.m. Eastern time is when I stream throughout the week. We did add a stream pre-Thursday Night Football at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So if you're into the Showdown streets, definitely check that out with myself and Peter Overzet. We're doing it on his channel on Mondays. So for Monday Night Football tomorrow, join us over there. Aaron says it's a time for a temperature check on the coffee. Okay. Don't have to tell me twice. Love it. Love it. What else at wide receiver, guys? We talked about the top end options. We talked about some cheaper guys. We talked about Chark and kind of the middle. We talked about that game with the value guys for sure. What do we miss here? The leverage options. Calvin Ridley. Man. Calvin Ridley and the Vikings guys. Marvin Jones at 5,800. Great game script. All this guy does is get targets and no one wants to play him. Really interested in that. This price for Mike Evans bothers me, but he'll be somewhat lower owned. Kiki at 5K. Now, maybe no one plays Kiki. That Cooks is out. Probably should see that ownership go up a little bit. Michael Thomas at 6%. I have some interest in that. Tyler Lockett is a late swap, sub 10%. Of interest in that. Tim Patrick. I think Tim Patrick's okay. If you're looking for a Denver guy in that game, right? I think Tim Patrick's a decent bring back. Because the Carolina, like you're going to need some Denver guys, right? If you're playing a lot of Robbie, playing a lot of Curtis Samuel like I am. Tim Patrick, Noah Fant, maybe take care of your tight end position, these mini stacks. I think it's okay. I think AB's in play. So Brown, like if we just look at like before the bye, 7.2 targets per game for for Antonio Brown. I don't know. I think it's okay. I think there's a chance that they just like continue to skew more heavily towards Evans and Chris Godwin though. Russell Gage, yes, Josh. I should have mentioned him. He's a very good value option for sure. Like if you're running out stacks in that game, just like trying to go after some of the condensed target shares that there is, yeah, I think Gage is really strong. Judy seems banged up to me, Ben. Amari. What's Amari's price, Cody? I haven't been on that one because I've been so focused on the value there. Amari, 6,500, 9 targets last week, 8 targets the week before. It's kind of interesting. Love Ayuk, Chris. Yeah, I think Williams and Herbert stacks is fine, Mikey boy. Yeah, everyone wants to talk about Ayuk. Ayuk's very solid. Yeah, I like him a lot. I think we touched on most of the guys at wide receiver. Allen Robinson, one of the best plays. I actually think that Trubisky is an interesting way to save salary at quarterback today. Hansen for Houston? Maybe. Seems thin. Gary Hobbs with the super chat. Thank you so much, man. Says, thoughts on Cam Sims for 3,100. Let's look at Cam Sims. So Cam Sims, 3,100. 9 targets last week. Only turned that into 5 catches, but just missed the bonus at 92 yards. Did have a red zone touch in there as well. So I guess if you're looking to leverage like the kind of, I mean, we're going to get to tight end in a second, but Logan Thomas I think is going to be relatively popular. So maybe Cam Sims makes a decent leverage play off that. I don't hate that, man. I don't hate that for sure. I think that's kind of sharp actually. Hopkins. We haven't talked about Nuke this whole time. Nuke Hopkins, 7,600. No one wants to play Kyler. Nuke's weighted opportunity still sitting at 0.66. His yards per round definitely down. The deep matchup, say what you want about the Giants. They've done a pretty good job at defending the deep ball. 3rd in the league. So it's a tough price tag with all these guys around him that I think are much better plays. And if the ownership is going to get you there, maybe. I just think that there's better leverage options like the Minnesota wide receivers and like Calvin Ridley personally. Yeah. So Devante Adams looks like he's going to kind of lead the way. I did forget another poll, so let's close this one out. And let's go to this one since we've already gone through it all. 5K or less price tag on wide receivers. Where are we at right now? This is a sub-only vote, so make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Toss a like on this video. We're almost at 500 likes, guys. That might be a new record. So in order to place your vote for this, exclamation point vote, space, and the number in the chat. Where are we at on the cheap guys? I already went through some of the guys I like. Whoa, we didn't talk about Tyler Boyd. I just keep forgetting that Tyler Boyd's price is where it's at. We talked about Higgins, but Boyd is a fantastic play as well. Yeah. Let's just say, for the sake of conversation, that Braxton Berrios on this poll right now. Let's say that Crowder's out. Cody says 499 likes. Heard that the person to get the 500th or win the milli. Would love to see it, man. Would love to see it. Let's see where we're at on these cheaper guys now that we've kind of walked through it a little bit. 1,000 people in the chat. Great stuff, guys. Really appreciate you being here on a Sunday. Hopefully you'll join us throughout the week as well if you can. Hopefully you'll join us for the Tilt Space later, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time on the Live Movement channel. Obviously, the Line Movement full slate breakdown will be very shortly here. 11 a.m. Eastern Time, myself, Dieter Kurtenbach, and Peter Overzet. Check out the link in my description if you want to figure out where that is, but hopefully you guys join us for that. We got a minute left in this poll, and then we'll move on to tight end, and we'll go through some Q&A, some top stacks, some leverage plays, all that stuff. It's been a great stream so far, guys. Thanks so much for being here. 7:25 here in LA. Yeah, the West Coast people. Anyone, shout out to my West Coast people in the chat right now being here early on a Sunday. How much is Cole Beasley? So Buffalo is not on the main slate. So we try and stick to main slate on this overall. Keegan Duffy is on Tyler Boyd. Dude, I'm so pumped you found the channel, man. Do you like DK better than FanDuel? I play a lot of both. Yeah. I like the smaller slates on FanDuel quite a bit, actually. They have some pricing, or so, like not pricing, but like some structures that I really like. So like a min, like if you min cash, you're going to 2x your buy-in at least over there. On DraftKings, a lot of times you'll just go 1.5x, which, I mean, that might not sound like a big difference, but it is over the course of a season. Pricing on FanDuel is pretty tough overall, which is normally not something I say. It's tough this week, though. Like if you want to get in your Aaron Rodgers stack, you got to pay up for it. BSB in the chat. What's up, man? Hope you're doing well, BSB. Big Show Brandon, obviously one of our biggest supporters from way back, man. You think we'd ever see 1,000 concurrent viewers, BSB? This is wild. What's the best way to send you a private message? Patreon. My DMs are always open in the Discord, so I haven't touched on this in a while, since the very beginning of the stream. So Patreon. $1 per month, 25 cents per week, some may say, gives you access to our premium Discord chat community, DFS, fantasy football, sports betting, a bunch of really smart people talking football throughout the week. Obviously, everything that's happening in the chat right now, we keep it rolling in the Discord chat throughout the week. We do have an NFL Red Zone stream room in there, so if you want to watch the games with us, sweat with us, talk about your teams, we do that each and every Sunday. And again, a 15 to 30-minute live stream directly before kickoff. My final thoughts, so after I've fully I guess committed to building the rest of my teams. It's a good time. Obviously, our weekly DraftKings tournament, we were giving away a $30 Amazon gift card for a couple weeks. This past week, basically, and this week, for every rating and review that I get on Apple Podcasts, we will be adding $1, or I will be adding $1 to the prize pool. So last week, first place in our DraftKings contest got $51. So pretty good value. Obviously, just like putting $1 on this, I just want to get the people that really want to be a part of our community. All the profits just going back into prizes and that sort of thing. So if you haven't checked out the Discord yet, definitely do that. If you're new to DFS, great place to come in and learn that sort of thing as well. So where did we end at wide receiver here? Pretty flat overall. Very interesting. All right, let's move on. Let's touch on tight end quickly, and then we can kind of work through a couple final thoughts here before we get out of here. Tight end. Price considered. This is a sub-only vote, so if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, would love it if you guys would do that. Travis Kelsey, Logan Thomas, Robert Tonyan, Darren Waller, Evan Ingram, or other. If you are a subscriber to the channel, exclamation point vote, space, and the number in the chat right now. Let's see where we're at on tight end right now. Are people just all in on Travis Kelsey today? We'll see. Joe says, it's a damn $1. Yeah. 25 cents per week, man. I literally can't make the Patreon any cheaper. It's for you guys, honestly, more than it's for me. It gives you guys a chance. Like, I know there's some people out there, and I know there was someone that mentioned this earlier as well. Sometimes basically your friends aren't as into DFS or fantasy as you are, like your hashtag real friends. You gotta have a group of people that are willing to like get in the weeds, right? And just like improve at like this hobby that we have. Like Patreon's a great way to do that. Just the Discord chat in general, just flowing all week long. So yeah, man, 25 cents per week just to have some new friends. Me too, dude. Been following you for a while now. Appreciate the advice. Just a simple man trying to win some money on this beautiful Sunday. Love it, Keegan. Dude, it's been like a really long time, man. We're going to have to get the Arizona boys together soon when all this craziness is over. Noel fan, Leone is the best. Has there been some Leone slander in the chat right now? I hope not. That guy's the man. We got a lot of others in the chat right now. People are not all in on Travis Kelsey. We got 60 people voting out of 1,000 right now. Let's just even say that we know that half of you guys aren't subscribed. The other half of you, what's your excuse for not voting in the poll? Mo Alley Cox for Clay at the Stone Min. Doozy, do you approve of that one? Mo Alley Cox at the Stone Min? I don't hate it, Clay. Lauren, Ingram is going to be a sneaky top scoring tight end of the slate. Lauren, you're low-key sharp, by the way. You and your boyfriend building lineups, man. You guys know what you're doing. I like Evan Ingram a lot today. We'll get to it. Deandre Washington versus Chief. Yeah, Scott, he's a great play. Yeah, at 4K, he's a stone man. He's going to touch the ball 15 times. Sometimes that's all you need. I don't think he'll kill you. Wish hockey had a following like football. Yeah, hockey's a lot of fun, man. I used to do a lot of DFS or NHL DFS stuff on the channel. Football is kind of what pays the bills and just basically drives everything, as they say, right? I didn't think we'd make it over 10K subscribers this year. You guys it's a testament to you guys, obviously, for being here. So nothing like a football Sunday, man. All right, 3 seconds, 2, 1, almost 100 votes. Travis Kelsey. Looks like a lot of others, guys. So we're flat at tight end right now. Everyone's just going to play Jordan Akins now that Cooks is out. That could be true. That could be true. Let's dive into it, guys. Let's go over the data table here. So at tight end, what we really want to focus on here, guys, is high team totals because we know touchdowns matter a ton. We still want to focus on weighted opportunity rating because, like, technically some of these guys are like wide receivers in some ways, right? Like the Wallers and Kelseys of the world. Targets per route run. There's tons of tight ends that go out there and block or that run routes and their quarterbacks don't really target them very much anyways. Targets per route run is very, very important at tight end. A position that definitely has a lot more volatility to it than most. So just correlating your tight end with your stacks is something that I do a lot of. So that's one of the big arguments I think in favor of going after something that might be a little bit thin. Robert Tonyan, 4,200, something like that. But with Rodgers stack, still makes a ton of sense. Rob Gronkowski, 4,800 with Brady stack, still makes a ton of sense. At the top end, Darren Waller, 6,800, 7% ownership. He's going to be one of our top leverage options, I would imagine. Yep. Top 3 leverage, just Jonnu and Waller and Gronk as the leverage options here, which is interesting. Hayden Hurst right there. Let's talk about Evan Ingram, though, since we had some people in the chat that were talking about him before. Evan Ingram, 4,300 on DraftKings. Like, this guy is a talent, right? We know that. He's someone that, now that we get Daniel Jones back, get that hamstring injury, I think it's a pretty solid spot for Evan Ingram. Like, he's still $200 cheaper than he was 2 weeks ago when he went 6 for 129. We got some people talking about, neg on Mo for Doozy. Doozy, who's the min price tight end then, man? Give us the answers to the test. Logan Thomas, Nemo, we'll get to him. Fant from Jeremy. Okay. But just to tie a bow on Evan Ingram, I guess I wish the total was a little bit higher. But I mean, the volume is there. 49 or 0.49 weighted opportunity. Like, he's the cheapest guy in this range that's hitting that. His target per route run, 0.23. Oh, yeah. The data loves Evan Ingram, for the record. The outside of the team total. What about Sanu as a bring back? You know, I haven't really spent much time looking into Sanu so far, so I'm going to look at it right now. He's 3K. People want to have like a cheaper option from this Green Bay game. 40 of 68 snaps, only 2 targets last week. Maybe. I just would strongly prefer to try and get to Marvin Jones. I think that there's, if you want to have a cheaper bring back in this game, maybe he's the one. Maybe you just take a shot on someone with Aaron Rodgers, though. Hurst at 5%. Yeah, I thought Hurst would be higher with all this Julio stuff, Kyle. So I think Hurst is interesting. Let's take a look at him quickly. We'll use our leverage score here to get there. Hayden Hurst, 3,700. Wow, okay. Nice team total. A team that passes in the red zone a lot. 30th. The Chargers are 30th at defending the short area of the field. Weighted opportunity rating could be better. Targets per route run could be better. But no Julio there, so maybe some of his volume concerns go the other way. Yeah, I kind of like Hurst a bit. At 3%? Yeah, I'm in on that. I like that one. That's sharp. Very sharp. Komet. Komet is very cheap. I'm with you on that one. Komet's like, his role has increased, right? Komet is 2,900. Is that the cheapest we would go? 7 targets last week. Akins, like that same price. Most people probably just going to play Akins there. Hunter Henry or Logan Thomas. Gabe, just for the record, my man, you don't have to put it in the chat twice. I'll see it. Hunter Henry or Logan Thomas in DFS. Well, now that you put it in the chat a third time, I'm not going to answer. Jordan Reed is someone people were talking about a decent amount. 3,500. 2% for a lot of the, I mean, maybe we're just too sharp in the chat right now. Weighted opportunity, decent. Target per route run, decent. Yeah, I think if we're just looking at like some of the things that matter, Jordan Reed's fine. I think there's some interesting lower own plays in this Washington-San Francisco game. Like if you end up like getting in a spot where you have some McKissick teams, maybe McKissick in the flex, like there's different directions you can pivot for low ownership if you get behind. Disley or Hollister? Oh, man, just this Russell Wilson tight end thing has been so tough, man. Probably neither for me. Komet or Thomas? I prefer Thomas there, Nemo. Yeah. Really need help. Miles Sanders, Chark, Williams, or Bernard can also pick up Perriman if none of them are good PPR as well as flex. Miles Sanders, I prefer at lower ownership in DFS. Chark is one that has a decent amount of upside as well, but Glennon at quarterback scary. Bernard's going to get 16 touches or so. Williams, like if you're high on that game with Herbert. Perriman's a guy that's going to see volume, but the Jets, it's some tough options, man. I skew towards the running back in those decisions usually. James O'Shaughnessy, that's an interesting one, Justin. Probably in like the thin territory. But if we're getting all the way down like sub 3K, I've heard worse ideas for sure. Noah Fant at 4,100. No one's going to play Noah Fant. And I kind of like that the Carolina side of the ball. So like mini stacks, we talked about this with like Robbie Anderson, Curtis Samuel, bring back with Noah Fant. I think that's interesting. Let's talk about the top end, guys. Travis Kelsey, 7,400. Second among all players, not just tight ends, in receiving yards. He's got 1,100 receiving yards this year. So I think he's strong overall. I think he's better on tight end, better on FanDuel, just because like it doesn't like drop. Like you don't get these guys that are 2,500 on FanDuel, so it's a much tighter range. It's like 7,400 is a lot tougher to get to on DraftKings for me. Darren Waller, most people are just going to get to Kelsey, so I have some interest, I guess, in that, just from an ownership perspective. And still, the volume is so strong there for Waller, such a large red zone role overall. So I think that's interesting. Rob Gronkowski, I mentioned him. I think he's my favorite bring back right now because I don't think his role is going to change too much. But these Minnesota stacks are super interesting. Gesicki. Yeah, Gesicki probably going to be. I like Gesicki more with Fitzpatrick, but I mean, he's still looking okay. 4,500. My concern would be the team total, that they aren't throwing much in the red zone. Not the best matchup, but like the volume's there. 5%. I think he'll be lower than that at high stakes. Either playing Hill or Kelsey. It's tough to play both, Timothy. I'm with you on that one. What do you think about Henry and Cook in the same lineup? Henry and Cook in the same lineup. I think it's fine. Do I like Dalton today? I like the mini stacks better in that game than playing the quarterbacks. Fourth highest tight end in points per dollar, which is insane given his price. Yeah, dude. Like, it's really tough. Brait at 3K for Doozy. What have his snaps been like? terrible. So like, but his targets are there. Such a weird thing. So Brait, he's basically out there for about 23 to 29 snaps per game, but he's still getting like 4 to 6 targets. So I don't think the ceiling's very high, but you could easily, I mean, you could back into a touchdown from Brait probably. Gronk with Brady and both Vikings wide receivers. Yeah, maybe. All right, guys, I'm going to take some final questions here, and then I'm going to kind of go through, I want to go through some of the late swap options too. And then we're going to get over to the line movement show directly after this, guys. I'm actually going to drop that link into the chat right now so you guys have it. That's where we're going to go game by game. Hopefully we touched on most of the stuff that you guys wanted to in terms of the positions today. This is a show that we do every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern time, obviously throughout the week, Mondays and Wednesdays at 3 p.m. And then also now at 7 p.m. Eastern time on Thursdays to talk some showdown for Thursday night football. So that's always a good time. I'm going to drop, if I can find it. There it is, the pre-kickoff show that will get rolling here in about 19 minutes. Boom. There it is in the chat. So I'll be over there. If you do come over to the Line Movement show, make sure you say "we are back" in the chat. That's how I know you came from here. Is DeAndre Washington viable? Absolutely, Timothy. At 4K, I'm in on that. Oh yeah, we could talk about DST quickly. And I guess very quickly, right? Because I want to get to some more questions. I think the DST plays that I would be the most interested in, if you are paying all the way up, probably the Seahawks for me at 3K. They've been pressuring a lot more, which is really random because at the beginning they weren't basically at all. This Jets offensive line, one of, if not the worst in the entire league. So I think the Seahawks at 3K if I'm paying somewhat up. Cowboys defense at 2,400 I think is super interesting if we're paying down. This Bengals offensive line is just absolute trash as well. The Cowboys don't bring like a crazy amount of pressure, but I think they bring enough to get to Brandon Allen in the spot. So those are like my two, the Cowboys and Seahawks that I'm super interested in. If you did want to kind of dig a little bit deeper at defense, like I think Cincinnati on the other side is still fine. San Francisco at 2,700 I think is okay against Washington. But those are like main ones I'm on, guys. New Orleans, if you want to pay all the way up, I don't think people are going to pay it just because 3,800 is really tough to get to. And I don't know if the ceiling is that much higher. I like Seattle if I'm paying up and they're only 3K. Sweet. Sam's with me in the chat on the Seattle stuff. I like it. All right, so let's close with some leverage options. I know we've touched on it a little bit, but big late swap slate overall. So if things aren't going well for you at 1 p.m., let's talk about some guys that you can pivot to at 4 p.m. or later, right? So we talked about it a little bit in the chat in terms of wide receivers. Calvin Ridley, if that ownership number holds, I think he's fantastic. I still think Russell Gage for a cheaper amount is a decent leverage option overall. Hayden Hurst at tight end at 3,700. I didn't think he was going to be as low. So these Atlanta guys, I think, provide a ton of leverage in the afternoon. So I like that quite a bit. I think this Washington and San Francisco game is somewhat interesting. So if you did want to go to like Debo or Ayuk, something like that, I think that's reasonable. At running back, if you want to kind of flip the script of Seattle and the New York Jets on his head a little bit, maybe Chris Carson. I think he's too expensive, but as a late swap, I think he's okay. No one wants to play Jonathan Taylor. He's just 5,800. He's probably going to touch the ball his 15 times. So I think that's somewhat interesting. But those would be kind of like my main pivot options. I think that if you want to, I think DK Metcalf's going to be super popular on FanDuel, but maybe not as much on DraftKings. But if you can't afford him, Tyler Lockett might be like half the ownership of DK Metcalf on FanDuel. DraftKings maybe a little bit closer. Terry McLaurin, 6,700 is another guy that I think makes a decent late swap. But I think we touched on the main one, guys. Marvin Jones or Crowder. Crowder's definitely banged up, so I think Marvin Jones is the play there, King. Is there anyone still in the chat right now that hasn't tossed a like on this video? Because as soon as we end this stream, there's still going to be some people that watch it when it's not live. That would help a lot more people watch it, which would help us in general. Hustleman Ford, how do I join the weekly DK tournament? Just join Patreon. Thanks for your great content. So when you join Patreon, $1 per month, patreon.com/Joe Holka, you'll get an email that will send you to the Discord. And when you attach your Patreon to the Discord, the premium channels will open. And then there's a channel that says enter here. That's where the link is dropped for each week. What time is the ownership percentage on Line Movement updated on Sundays? Normally Sunday morning. Sometimes it's before the stream. Sometimes it's slightly after. Yeah. Anything else, guys? If not, I'm going to get everyone situated for the line movement show, and then we'll get things rolling, do a little bit of lineup building, and then I'll see you guys in the Discord for my final thoughts right before kickoff. Thanks for everyone for being here. These are always very, very fun streams. Hit that notification bell, join the Noti gang if you want to be, not missing anything along the way. That's the best way to get everything pushed over to your phone. Join us on the Tilt Space tonight, 6:30. And when you get over to the line movement show in about 15 minutes, I want to, how many we are backs are we going to get in the chat? That's what I want to know. All right. Good stuff, guys. Everyone, best of luck in week 14. And we'll see you guys very soon in about 15 minutes, actually. All right. Good stuff.